Good morning, champs. Hope you're doing good. And I also hope you've seen all the previous lectures and you have practiced as well. So, what we are going to do from today is we'll just have a look at what we have done previously so that we can modify it accordingly and see what are the things that we should not have done, right? And the things we should have done and we didn't do, right? And one of the most important things is why are we even doing this? If request dot get method dot is equivalent to post, only because of the fact that if the post is happening, only then we are able to take the username and password from the client, right? Unless why? Because it is going to cause null pointer exception, right? So if I just take it away, right? If I just take it away, and in case if you have not seen the previous lecture, so I advise you to see JSP login 1, right? So I'll be attaching link to class 1 as well in the description so that those who have not seen will watch and understand the JSP professional object-oriented login system part first, and then we'll move to part second of it, right? So now that is quite understood, right? So it is causing null pointer exception, and that exception is only because of the fact that you are taking request.get parameter and you are setting the username, whereas request.get parameter is absolutely happening on post. You can do this, and you can do this on get, h, and l, whatever. So you can see there's no other incorrect username and password now because you have executed the script on get, but the script is meant to be executed on post, right? And you should not be having this kind of confusion here, and there are many ways to tackle this, right? So programming does not require inculcating the things that your teacher or your instructor is training you for, right? So it requires lots and lots of experimenting. For example, if I tell you I don't have to do this, right? If request.method is equivalent to post, how do you check what is behind this method? I'll say, okay, let me give this button a name, right? So I will say btn login. Now this button login will also become an HTML element that is going to be submitted on post, right? Just like txt username is the element, txt password is an element, HTML element, and input type password, input type text, and input type submit is also an element, which is also despite of being the event creator. Right, so this is basically when you click on the login button, then and only then event is created. And despite of that, and apart from being an event creator, this also is an element that is submitted because it's inside the form, right? So this submit button is also submitted to the web server, right? So if I say, let me take it away, and for the sake, just for 5 minutes, if I say not if, so let me try something else. Let me give you the perspective, or let me give you an idea. What happened? All right. All right. So let me get rid of this and say out.print. I can say request.get parameter, right? So I can say btn login. So let me see what is in btn login. If I say, now you can see when I load this btn login, I basically have a problem here. Now just a moment. I'll just take it away and do Control Z. The error is coming only because we are doing user.get message here. Now, how can you extract message from the object user when you have not defined it? So you cannot take this definition away, right? So I'll do it here. Out.println request.get parameter btn login. Now you can see btn login, when you load your web application, is actually null, right? But once you hit the login button, it is not null. It gives login. So initially it is null. On get it is null. On post it gives the name login, right? So we can do this as well. So since I have given it a name, instead of if request.get method is equivalent to post, I can do if request.get para if request.get parameter and the parameter name is bt and login is not equivalent to null. So this piece of code will also do the same. Only matter of fact is that we have to take model outside the if condition, because you require the object of user both on get and on post, because once you are loading the web application you are printing something in this message right here, right? And that's why I have taken it away. So now the model object of the user, sorry, the object of the class model, which is user, is available both during get and post as well. So now let us execute it and run it. On get, nothing is executed, so you are not getting any null pointer exception, and on post this works absolutely fine, right? So it's you should get the logic behind it. If I have called request underscore, you can say request dot get method, right? So how does the method know, right? So you can say if request dot get method is equal to post. How does it know, right? Because there are few tricks that we can also apply so that we can come to know whether get or post is happening, right? And now once you are aware of this function, right, you already know whether get and whether post is happening. Now the second thing in Java or in JSP is the management. We need to manage different things, right? Just a moment, give me a minute. These dogs have created all right, I just made them, I just made it, they are basically the stray dogs are making life difficult in here, right? So I had to do something. So let us hope they don't bark anymore and we continue our class without any hindrance and without any stoppage at all, right? So okay, back to the topic that we were discussing, is that it's not necessary every time you take help from the inbuilt classes and libraries. Yeah, you should, but unless you know the logic what is happening, doesn't mean that if you are stuck somewhere you do not know the logic of how to get rid of any problem you may face in complex web application development designing, right? And the second thing that we are going to do is I am going to take this code inside the login.jsp which I have just made, right? We have made it previously, right? So now login.jsp is here, so I'll have to import model and I'll have to import controllers right here, right? Because I'm using them in a separate file. So I've imported controller, which is the package name, and accounts controller, the class name right here, and model, right, which is models is the package name and model is the class name. So now everything is everything is same except the fact I changed request dot get method to request dot get parameter bt and login, right? And everything else remains the same. Let's go back to main page and say here I will use include directive. I repeat, include directive to include a file known as inside the folder login.jsp. inc is the folder name. If you're not familiar, I'll show you this here. What is the project name? JSP class 1. So are we still stuck as class 1? So okay, maybe this is class 5 for our JSP. Okay, so index.jsp is here. No, JSP class 1. Okay, JSP class 1 is here. Model is the package, controller is the package, and inc is the folder, right? That takes includes, inc means includes, and that has login.jsp in it. So right, so now if you see your JSP page is 99% fill of only UI code, right? So that is the main purpose of having a JSP page, so that it contains maximum amount of user we can say presentation logic, rather than having the Java code written here and there and creating mess around, right? So that's not good practice, right? So that's very bad practice. And perhaps Zia asked me the last time, I want this username. If I say, right, okay, now let me check username and password first because I forgot. Okay, it's still it's Fahim and password, right? So if I say Fahim and password, okay, why doesn't this stay? Why does this go? When I refresh, reload, where does it go, right? Okay. Now you want this to be as stable as you can, but for that you'll have to understand the basic structure of HTML, right? So basic structure of HTML is that HTTP protocol is a stateless protocol because the structure is based over, or the structure is based on the request and response model. So every time you load your HTML page or your JSP page, any page over the web, you load it, you're sending a new request to the web server. So every time you load, a new GET request is sent, or every time you click the login button, a new post request is sent, right? So are you maintaining it? No, you're not maintaining it. Let us go back and check the structure of our page that we have developed. Now what you are doing, if button is not null, right? When is it not going to be null? Only when you hit the login button, right? Because post will happen, right? And after the post, this is not going to be null because it's an HTML element. It will contain the name itself, that is login with L capital, right? Then and only then this is being executed, right? So that's fine. We understand that. Now what are you doing? You're calling the login function, and login function returns back message to you, and that message you're printing in here, right? But now when you load it for the first time, right, you reload it, what is happening? You include the file login.jsp and you create a new object of model users, right? So you're not maintaining the state of the object. You are creating a new object. So once you're creating a new object, a new memory for your object is allocated, giving you a new instance of user object, right? So I hope you all remember your Java programming very well prior to that, because the knowledge of core Java is very important here. So once you reload the page, GET will happen and you will create a new model. And when you click on the login button, post will happen and you are going to create an object for accounts controller, and you are going to call with that object, you are going to call login, right? So unlike servlets, which serves request and response. If you know servlet, they serve request and response in a different thread or using a different thread. But here the case is different. Every user is going to receive a new object, and not only that, because HTTP is a stateless protocol, right? Because the structure is based on request and response model, and hence it is not meant remember states or state of a page implicitly, right? So HTTP protocol will not let you, or it is not going to remember the state of a page implicitly. What does that mean? That means, yeah, explicitly you can make sure that your HTML page remembers the state. And one of the great examples of that is, let us say I don't type anything. Please write your username. So now I type my username. So after I have typed my username, if I click, now you can see even the username doesn't remain here. Actually, if you see the logic, please write your password. When I get a message of password, so I show this user-defined, user-friendly message of write your password, but username should have stayed here, whereas username does not stay and it's vanished like anything. Why? You didn't ask me this question. Where does this username go? Because the state of the page is not maintained implicitly. Explicitly, we can use many things to maintain the state. Let me show you an example of this. I'll go to mainpage.jsp. Now I want to maintain the state of the page. What I can do right here, I can say value is equal to 100. Now if I say value is equal to 100, 100 is going to come every time you load the page. So 100 will automatically come, but I don't want 100 to come. And this is the magic of expressions. That remember the day one I told you that we can embed Java directly inside HTML. That's what we are doing here. I can say user.get username. Now if I say user.get username, what do I get? I get null. So that means there's nothing in the username. Now let's basically focus on this. I go to txt password. Now I cannot make sure that password, you cannot maintain the state of password when it's already wrong. Only what you can do, maintain the state of username. But why is username coming null? Username is meant to be filled on post. The same reason. Only when the form is submitted. When the form is submitted, post happens. Only then, the username is set. What you are doing here, only when the post is happening, take everything that is inside this username and set username member variable. And if set has not happened, right? I repeat, if set has not happened, how can get happen, right? Because you are doing, clearly you are doing user.get username here. So if set has not happened, how can get happen? So now what you need to do to cope up with this is the same what we did with get message. Right, so I'll go to the users class, which is the model class, and I'll make a constructor here. I'll call this as public model, and I'll call this dot username is blank. So now every time you create an object of model, now you know that every time we create a model object, so object creation, right? We create object class name and obj name is equivalent to new class name. So this is how we create an object of the class, right? We write the name of the class, and we write the object name, and then we say new class name, right? So this is how we create. Now what is this parenthesis? What does it indicate? Right? So an object creation or creating an instance of the class in an object based programming, right? So OPB means object oriented, or we can say object oriented programming. And object creation or creating an instance of the class in an object oriented programming is actually a call to the constructor of the class. I repeat, an object creation or creating an instance of the class, one and the same thing. An object oriented is actually a call to the constructor of the class. So this parenthesis means you're calling the constructor, which by default is the 0 parameter constructor, right? So this parenthesis means call to constructor, right? What does it indicate? Call to constructor. Now whenever you create an object, so in our case we are creating an object of users, right? Here now if I go back to code and show you, we are creating an instance of users here, right? So every time I load the application, I'm going to create the instance of or we can say object of model class and pass parenthesis, which means that I am calling the constructor. So the moment the object is created, username is assigned with a blank value, which initially has nothing, nulls and garbage, right? So it's assigned with a blank value, right? Is that understood? So that is why we create in an instance. And now for example, let's say about if I have a 0 parameter constructor and the constructor accepts one parameter, string name, say about for the sake of understanding, if it accepts one parameter, we are going to get an error here. You can see this here. Constructor model in the class model cannot be applied to given types, required string. That means the class is asking, the model is asking for a string parameter. I can pass hello. So that's why, and hence it's proven that this parameter here is a call to the constructor. Now how do I prove that? You have seen, if the constructor is accepting one parameter, the moment I create an object of the class, right, I get an error because if I do not supply any parameter, because the attribute is accepted. You can see, right, the constructor demands an argument, and I'm not supplying any argument, means I have to supply it. So this proves that this parenthesis is nothing but call to the constructor of the class. So I hope it's understood. Now when I create an object, immediately I call the zero parameter constructor of model class and initialize 0 with a blank string. So that is going to serve me and save getting nulls. Sorry. Okay, now you can see that I'm not getting any nulls. But what you notice here, if I write Fahim, please write your password, Fahim doesn't go. So now what I have been able to do here, I have been able to explicitly control the state of the control, which is an HTML element, txt username, and element is input type text. So I've been successfully able to maintain the state right here. So without any joke. So now you can see here what is happening. I'll show you once again. I said value is equal to user.getUsername. When I load the website, username initially is blank string, right? Why? Because I'm creating the object of model just ahead of the file in login.jsp, right? So login.jsp calls model, the zero parameter constructor assigns null. I'll show you an example. If I pass hello here and I load website for the first time, I get hello because it's automatically assigned, right? Okay, and now after that, when I do post, the object is already created, right? So now I get please write your username, and now when the postback happens, the response comes. I am loading the same username as a response here. I'm submitting the username as request, but now it doesn't go. Why? Because it's reprinted as a response to me. So this is how I was successfully able to create the state of the page and maintain the state of the page. Now I can write password. A password can be wrong, no problem. Password goes because it's wrong. There's no need to maintain the state of the password. Why? Because password, if correctly typed, should give you login, and login should give you redirection, right? Okay, I hope you have understood this part, and now we'll start with today's actual class, which is maintaining the state of the page, right? So I'll show you how have we maintained the state of the page. So I'll say example. All right, example, our input type text does not maintain the state, right, after the response is generated. Because, why? Will you please tell me? Because, what should I write after because? Because when the round trip means request, request and response. So that's why I write round trip. When the round trip of request and response happens, the page loses the previous state of HTML elements, right? So requirement, I'll say note, we need to, we can say manually. We need to manually maintain it. How do we manually maintain the state of the page? As I have already shown you, right? The example is here that we maintain the state of a page explicitly or manually by doing this. So here, what is happening, right? So here, username is submitted, right, after the round trip, because, right, it is reprinted, or we can say re-echoed, or we can say reprinted, right? So username is resubmitted after the round trip, right? Or we cannot write it. So let me document it short. Username is resubmitted after the round trip. So calling get, right, only after set has happened, right, during postback. Postback is basically post, right? Postback means this. Now the form method is post. Well, what is the form doing? If I ask you, what is the form doing? Right? Form is doing postback, right? Postback. So it's a round trip postback, right? So we have maintained the state of the page. Other ways for maintaining the state of the page. What are other ways for maintaining state of a page? All right, so number one, other ways for maintaining state of a page are using hidden types, using HTTP sessions 3, using get. Get should not right, deal with sensitive information like username and password, right? Number 4 is using HTTP cookie. So all the things will be defined to you, because next class will be as that of HTTP sessions, and then you'll get a proper answer that why doesn't it happen, why doesn't the HTML or HTTP page remember our state, why doesn't it remember the state of the page. Now you can see if I reload, because the data is already there, it doesn't go. But if I refresh and reload the page, if get happens, now if I write it down here, Fahim and pass, right, or we can say password. So this function here, it's a round trip reloading. Reload means the previous thing happened was post. Now post is happening again, right? If I load this, post is happening again. So if I load this, get is happening, a new object is created, hence all the state is lost, right? So explicitly maintaining the state of the page is also possible. And now second thing that we can do is using input type hiddens. For example, let me go to this menu bar.jsp. Okay, let me load this menu bar.jsp so that you understand. Okay, what is the spelling? M is capital and B is capital. Okay, menubar.jsp. So let me load menu bar.jsp. Okay, menu bar.jsp is throwing an error. menu. Okay, it is not here. It is somewhere in inc. Okay, let me call contact.jsp just for the sake. Okay, contact.jsp. Okay, this is the contact page. Okay, let's say for example, if I say input type submit, all right, and I say value is equal to count and name is equal to btn count, right? And let us create a form. So I'll say form action is equal to self action, method is equal to post. All right, okay, by not mentioning any action here, right? So what I tell my server, that whenever I press the submit button, please submit whatever is in the form back to the self page. Self page is contact.jsp, unless I give address of some other page, so that is also possible. All right, so let's carry on. So now what I want from you, right, what I want here is whenever this button is pressed, so let me say, all right, if request.get method dot equals let's see, if request.get method dot equals post, right? So I can say int count is equivalent to right? A btn, or we can say request dot get parameter, request dot get parameter btn count. Is that clear? Okay, I know, you know that there is a problem that every request and every single thing taken as an input in Java, be it core Java or advanced Java, every single thing taken as an input is taken as raw string. So we'll have to convert it back to integer. For that, I will say dot integer dot parse int, and I'll pass integer dot parse it is a function. I pass request dot get parameter btn count. It's converted back to integer, and now my int count has and converted integer. Alright, so this is already known to me, and I'll say request request dot get, or I can say, let's say out dot print count, right? Let's say plus 1. So I'll say print count plus 1. Alright, so what is in the count? Nothing. So what do you say? What are you going to add count to? Right? What are you going to add count to? Right? So for the sake, let us say btn count value is equal to 1. So I'll say value is equal to 1. Okay, or 2. We are getting 2. Okay. So now the count of when I say request dot get parameter btn count, what are you getting? You're getting the value of the button, which is 1 in my case, right? Which is a 1 in my case. So let us do one thing. So I'll say count. Let's create input type text here, and name is equal to txt value, right? And say value is equal to 1. So instead of getting it from button, right, so let us get it from here. Okay, fine. So I hope you understood it. Now this has 1. I say count 2. Now if I say 3, count 4. If I say 4, count is 5. Now what I want you to do, I want you to automatically control this. Now for example, if I keep on pressing this, now let us keep this as input type text will be input type hidden. Now this input type hidden has a value which is 1, right? Now without using any other without using sessions, without using cookies, what I want you to run a count here. For example, now it's 2. If I hit again, it should be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it should carry on infinite times the moment I start hitting it, right? So now you need to find me a way out here, right? So you need to find a way out for creating this, right? And send me the screenshot of the code, or write down, copy and paste the code of this count, because this is going to increase your logic. Now I keep on repeating that listening to lectures and watching videos will not help. It's not sufficient for you to become professionals. You'll have to practically do something yourself, right? Unless you work hard and you decide to work hard, right, nothing is going to change, right? So I repeat that you won't be what you want to be by remaining what you are. So a change is necessary. All right, so you should listen to your instructor, because your instructor is someone who has already been a student, right? So I was also a student, so I have more experience than you, right? So you say, sir, I want to be a professional web application developer. I don't want to develop those small websites and applications. I want to develop complex solutions for banks, for universities, for insurance companies, right? I want to be a solution provider rather than normal developer. So that is the wish that you're having, right? So everyone has a wish, every single one has an ambition. But what happens, that ambition should really get a kick. So any ambition that is not planned remains a wish. I repeat, any ambition that is not planned remains a wish. So what is behind ambition and a wish, right? If you want your wish to be true, you have to plan your wish. And to plan your wish, you need to listen to someone who is teaching you, who's an instructor. He has more experience than you. Your instructor once was a student, right? Practice, practice, and practice. I give you 3 solutions. Number 1 is practice. Number 2 is practice. Number 3 is practice. Right? Keep on practicing unless you become professionals. And believe me, it's not going to take more than 20 days for you to become a thorough professional, or maybe start becoming a professional. All right, and professionalism will only come when you start practicing and finding solutions for the problem and face errors. Right, try and backtrack your applications yourself before you send them to me. Only when you are tired and fed up, send them to me. All those errors that you have been sending to me are very, very sorry feeling errors, very small errors that by now you should be able to debug and detect. Right, so please and please do the homework, provide me the solution. I repeat, you have only one, you cannot add another. You have only one input type hidden, and the value of input type hidden is 1. Now I want this count to, imagine that HTTP is a stateless protocol. You cannot store anything in a variable and start doing plus plus to a variable, because it's an HTTP is it's a stateless protocol. Your state is going to be lost. But here you are doing a round trip, so keep on hitting the button and the counter should work. Right, and it should be infinite times without any doubt. Right, so I wish you all the best. Do complete your homework and let me know if you're having any problems down in the comment section, or you can call me or message me, but only genuine problems and genuine errors, right, which you are fed up of. But unless you try and correct them, do not send them to me. Bye bye, take care.